Hey guys, on this episode of Glenn's Car Collection, we're going to compare new school M car versus old school M car. So this is the 2016 BMW M2, and this is a 2001 S54 BMW M Coupe. We'll go through the differences, where old M cars have come from, where they are now, and see the plus and minuses of both. So stay tuned on this episode of Glenn's Car Collection. Okay guys, we're standing in front of the S54 M Coupe. Now there are a lot of M Roadsters. For M Roadsters and M Coupes, 2001s and 2002s have the S54 engine. And this is all United States production. Here in the United States, the 99s and 2000s have the S54 engine, which is the 284 horsepower engine from the E36 M3. In 01, for Coupes and Roadsters, they put the S54 engine, and that's when the E46 M3 came out in the United States, 2001, which also had the S54. So the horsepower went from 240 from the S52 to 315 with this S54 engine. Now, they made 25,000 M3s in this country with the S54. There's only 678 M Coupes. I believe there's 3,000 Roadsters with the S54 engines. So if you're looking at these cars, any 01 or 02 M Coupe or M Roadster has the S54 engine. Now, originally this car was only to be sold as a Roadster, and it was kind of a skunkworks project by the BMW engineers. Hey, what if we did a coupe version of the Z3? And this is what they came up with. There's actually a Z3 that's not an M car, just a Z3 coupe, which basically looks like this but doesn't have the M engine. They're actually even rarer than the M coupes. So what I'm going to do here is I'll pop open the engine so you can see the S54. Now 17-inch wheels on this car are standard. What you're looking at here are aftermarket 19-inch wheels. So just pretend for this comparison's sake that this car is actually stock. And this is the S54 engine. This car actually has Dynon software on it, so it's got a little more horsepower. That came up with in my PPI, where the BMW dealer told me that. And this is the glorious S54 engine with the 8,000 RPM redline, 315 horsepower. Now the M3s in this country had 333 horsepower, and the difference here is exhaust routing. Also on these S54 M Coupes, since they have a better power to weight ratio than the M3, which makes them obviously faster, they kind of changed the gearing. They put in slower gearing on these cars so it wouldn't be faster than an M3. My car has the S52 gearing in it, so it actually is faster than an M3. So from digging out some old car magazines, the S54 cars were about 4.7 seconds to 60. Now if we take the M2 for comparison, most of the magazines I see are 4.2 to 4.4. Obviously these cars make power in very different ways, where the M2 you have a turbocharged motor and you have a lot of torque down low at 2,000 RPM. This engine you have to rev it out like it's a race car. Think S14 and the E30 M3, that here you got to get up to 8,000 RPMs to get all that power. But it's a lot of fun getting up to those RPMs. So what we'll do now is we'll take the M Coupe for a spin, and we'll compare it to the M2. Okay, let's start the M Coupe. Now all the gauges here are functional. This is old school BMW, where it tells you this car was just serviced, so it's the green lights. When the green lights go away and it goes to yellow, that means get ready for service. Red means to get it serviced. This car right now has 52,641 miles, where my M2 has less than 7,000 miles right now. Everything's functional, speedometer and tachometer. This is the typical BMW tachometer. We were just driving this car. If it was cold, it would be at roughly 5,000, and then as the car warms up, it would go to 8,000. Then you have your temperature gauge, and then obviously your gas. The gas is actually small. A small gas tank in this car, just like the M2. I think it's less than 14 gallons. Off the top of my head, I think it's in the 13.7 range. And my car has the revised S52 gearing, so you are at a higher RPM on the highway. And what that does is, you know, it's only a 5-speed, so when I'm going 70 miles an hour, I'm at like 4,000 RPM and I'll suck gas. You'll have a ton of passing power because you're already at 4,000 RPM, but you will not get good gas mileage. I need a new TMPS. If you watch my long-term reviews on this car, I bent a wheel, which was fixed, but I guess the TMPS thing broke, so I'll have to replace that. So that's why it's flashing. I checked the tires, everything is good condition. This car is very small. I'm 6 feet tall, and my head is very close to the ceiling here. So you probably couldn't be 6'3" and drive this car. It's a very tight interior, but it's very intimate interior as well, and I love it. I just love how this kind of like wraps around you, and I don't think you get that on the modern cars. Air conditioning works great. You see the time is not the right time right now, just because daylight saving time is over and I haven't adjusted it. You just stick a screwdriver in there and fix it. It's about 40 degrees today, give or take, and that's what this is showing. And then you have your temperature there. It's got heated seats, air conditioning. The only electronic nanny here is the DSC. You can shut that off by pressing the button. We're going to keep it on, and now it's off. You'll see the light on your dash that it is off. But we're going to press the button and we're going to keep it on for this comparison. And now, there we go. Gotta hold it down. This has an aftermarket shifter. BMW didn't have the great shifters back in 2001. They were kind of rubbery. If you've driven an E35 M5, you'll know that. So this has an aftermarket shifter. It's a very short throw. For this particular one, I would even say it's too short of a throw. I'll probably at some point go back to the stock shifter. I think the best shifter BMW has is in the 1M. If you see my comparison of the M2 against that, if I can get the 1M shifter in this car, I think that would really be the best of both worlds. This shift knob is real low. If you had a regular BMW shifter, it would come up to here. This is actually too low when you're driving it. I guess I'm used to it now, and also with this shift knob here, it is very hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Today's a colder day, so it's cold. Then you have your window controls, both on each side here. That's your driver's side, and that is your passenger side. This was like an SC Schnitzer tribute car here where the person put carbon fiber everywhere, and you can see on the door sill. So for this comparison, we'll pretend that this car is stock. Obviously, this doesn't add to the performance. You have the AC Schnitzer wheel here, which is carbon fiber, which I love. Again, it does nothing that adds to the performance. So let's just pretend it's stock for this comparison's sake. The only thing that's going to add to the performance is the extra horsepower you get with the Dyna software. So let's take it for a spin and see how we like to drive and compare it to the M2. Alright, so we're out driving the S54 M Coupe, and the first thing you notice here is like you're driving an old Le Mans car from like 1970. It's a very visceral driving experience. You have, the M2 has very good steering for second generation electronic steering, but when you compare to this car, you see what great steering feel really is. You know, the M2, when we get into it next, is going to feel so artificial and electronic compared to this car. So this is amazing, visceral car. You just have that engine that just wants to rev. It's like your friend that says, come on, let's go, let's go. Where the M2, we can press different buttons, make it two personalities in one. Comfort mode, Sport Plus. We can make it a great track car, great daily driver. This car is sport mode 100% of the time. So this is crazy. Take me to the track, take me to your favorite mountain road, take me you know, wherever. Let's have a great driving experience. You're not going to go out for milk in this car. It's going to stay in your driveway. Now, you are kind of sitting almost on the rear tires, so you do feel the bumps pretty good here. You know what? Let's go right here just because we're going to get stuck behind this slow car. You do feel the bumps because you're really sitting practically on top of the rear tires, where the M2 has a back seat and it makes it smoother. I don't know if the sound of this engine comes out, but just it's a very lively car with a short wheelbase, like the M2, where you can really kind of throw it into a turn, and this car really just oh man, this is so good. These were common track cars when these came out. Again, when they came out, they had the S52 motor. I used to autocross a ton back then, pretty much every weekend, and you would see a ton of these M Coupes. So there's not too many of them left. A lot of these were chewed up with roll bars and you know, trashed at the track. So out of the 678 S54s, you know, if we say maybe 65% or so on the road, you know, that aren't wrecked or have salvage titles, you know, you're probably down to about 400, which is only going to make this car go up in value. Every time you drive this car, like, the driving experience is incredible. Some of my friends have said if they were able to own this car, they would drive it every day. How could you not? You're not going to commute to this car and work. It's, you know, it's a tight car. It's not the easiest car to drive fast. It definitely rewards good driving skill. The M2, I think anybody can be fast in that car, whether you got your license yesterday or your 70-year-old grandmother. It's a very easy car to drive fast, which is great. But this car will actually make you work for it, which is, I think, is great too. If you can keep up with an M2 in this car, which you certainly can, whoa, big potholes. It's because of the driving experience, because of your driving experience, rather. A person that doesn't have isn't a great driver will not be fast in this car, because you don't realize how much the electronics on the M2 are helping you out until you drive the same roads or the same racetrack with it off. Problem is with New Jersey, and we're in New York State now, roads in December, there's a ton of potholes, and there's only more coming. So with this car with the 19-inch low-profile tires, like I said, I've had this car for a year, and I've bent 3 wheels already. And I'm pretty careful. I won't even go on the road if it's full of potholes. But now here you can hear this S54 engine sings. You don't get this in the M2. You know, the M2 is it has a ton of power, torque down low, but it's really a tuned M235 motor, and that's my complaint with the 1M2. It's a tuned 135 motor, where here this S54 is a special engine. If you're a BMW enthusiast or even a car enthusiast, you have to own an M car with an S54 engine. It's really that good. If you can't afford the M Coupe because of the prices for them, definitely get yourself an E46 M3. I have a couple videos on those, and you'll see what that's all about. And those cars will be going up in value too, mainly because of this engine. It's a lot easier to find an E46 M3 than it is certainly an S54 M Coupe. Now we're only at about 3,000 RPM. I don't really have open road to get to that 78,000, but if you did, it would just be amazing. Not only does it sound great, but obviously just the speed that this car builds up, obviously it's making its horsepower by revving itself out. The brakes, where the M2 is definitely better is the brakes. This is an older 2001 car. Back in 2001, if a sports car stopped at 120, 125, even 130 feet from 60, that was considered pretty good. So, you know, the new M2 stops at a dime, and that's not this. So if you were looking for phenomenal brakes, the M2 is your car. Then you certainly can upgrade this to give you the braking power. The stock brakes are adequate, but I wouldn't say that they're great. Now that was only about 7,000 RPM. You see how amazing that engine was. It was pulling so hard, and we still had another 1,000 RPMs to go. Steering feels phenomenal on this car. We're just kind of like in a back road here in New York State, and I can put this car wherever I want. If you put a quarter on the ground, you know, the old Jeremy Clarkson, I can run over it and tell you if it was heads or tails. Now again, you do feel the bumps. There's some bumpy sections of the road. The M2 has much better damping than this car does. This car is lowered and has suspension also, so a stock M Coupe would probably be better at that than this. But this car really has no body roll and really sticks to the road. The shifter is nice and precise. Again, it's an aftermarket shifter, but it's like rifle bolt action here, where you can really go through the gears really well. Again, this engine likes to rev, so you're not, you're always probably going to be driving around town in a lower gear than you normally would, say on the M2. So where I'm in third gear for the M2, I'll probably stick to second here. If I'm in fourth gear with the M3, I'll probably stick to third here. We're on some really rough construction plagued roads here, so we're bouncing around a little bit, but small price to pay. This car would be phenomenal on the racetrack as well, especially for autocross. I personally, since it has collectability to it, I personally wouldn't put it on the track, just because you can wreck it and ruin your investment. But it's a very capable track car, and that's why there's so few of these cars left. Out of the box, it was such a good track car that you know, people bought them for that purpose. And again, this handling is spot on. I can really be so precise with this car. I can put it anywhere. Again, you don't have all those electronics helping you out. It would be a different animal with the DSC off. Obviously, if you did want to track a car like this, you would take it off. Now, on a smoother road like we're driving through now, through a residential neighborhood, it's just perfect. But even right now, we're driving 25 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM in second, and you can see this engine just wants to rev. It's just like, hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. Because it's a small car, it has a small gas tank, so does the M2, so your range is not going to be as far. But again, you're probably not taking this car to work. This is going to be a weekend-only car. Pedals are in good position to heel toe. The brake pedal is right over and next to the gas pedal, so it's a very easy car to heel toe. And unlike the M2 that is really rev matching for you, this car you got to do it all by yourself. So obviously the better you are at heel toe, the more you're going to get out of this car. We're just rev matching right there, and it was like butter putting it in. Once I'm in this car, I don't drive this car that often, but once I'm in it, I'm like, wow, I can drive this car all the time, all day long. I really, you don't know what you're missing till you get back into the car. So what we'll do now is we'll go get the M2 and we'll take that for a ride and see the back-to-back comparison. All right, guys. So this concludes part one of the video where we did the introduction of both cars. We drove the M Coupe around and learned what we like about it. And in part two of the video, we'll take the M2 out for a drive and then we'll draw a conclusion. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for your support. And you'll see part two of the video with the M2 and the conclusion soon. Thanks, guys.